Chapter 21. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I'm a god in this world. Translator. Nyo.bo Studio Editor. Nyo.bo Studio, a bunch of good. 4. Nothings. Song Tianming's face was gloomy as he shouted coldly. Zhangpeng, Chen Qi. Young Master Ming. Two men wearing formal clothes stepped out from the crowd. They had sharp eyes and a strongly built body. Their movements were vigorous, which were two warriors. Both of them were not from this world. They were reincarnators, Song Tianming's men. Both of them successfully mastered martial arts and became Foundation Establishment Realm warriors with Song Tianming's help. They had always helped Song Tianming solve some unspeakable things, and their attacks were vicious and bloody. The two of them had solemn expressions and locked their gaze on Lin Qi. Lin Qi's aura was restrained, and he looked like an ordinary person. How could an ordinary person be able to send so many bodyguards flying at a distance of 2 to 3 meters? Was that a joke? These bodyguards didn't look like they were faking it. Instead, they looked like they had been hurt and were wailing. That made the two of them feel a little nervous. However, they had no choice but to charge since Song Tianming had demanded them. Go. Zhangpeng and Chen Qi looked at each other. A hint of viciousness flashed in their eyes, and they looked like two ferocious tigers charging forward. Lin Qi stood with his hands behind his back, looking at Zhangpeng and Chen Qi indifferently. Zhangpeng and Chen Qi were surprised to find that the air in front of them had become sticky. Their sharp movements became extremely slow, like they were stuck in the mud. Suddenly, Zhangpeng and Chen Qi held their throats tightly. It was as if an invisible hand was strangling their throats, lifting them bit by bit, and making them float in the air. It was pointless no matter how they struggled. They could not break free from Lin Qi's spiritual energy control at all. Song Tianming's entire body trembled, and a sense of unease filled his heart. Song Tianming's pupils constricted, and his eyes were filled with shock as he stared fixedly at Lin Qi. That man was capable of telekinesis. Telekinesis was something only a Saint Core Realm warrior could do. Could this man be a Saint Core Realm warrior? Song Tianming was suddenly shocked, and his back was drenched in a cold sweat. A Saint Core Realm warrior could be said to be above all living things. Even the high-ranking officials of the Dragon Country government had to treat them with courtesy. If a Saint Core Realm warrior wanted to destroy a family, they didn't even need to do it themselves. The government would do it for them, no matter what the reason was. That was the ability of a Saint Core Realm warrior. One person was equivalent to 1,000,000 male masters. To a certain extent, a Saint Core Realm warrior was even more powerful than 1,000,000 male masters. He had barely stepped into the pre-celestial realm by using the super serum, and yet he was able to dominate the Nanqing city. Of course, he could understand how powerful a Saint Core Realm warrior was. However, why would a Saint Core Realm warrior attack the Song family? Song Tianming was dumbfounded. Song Tianming, do you recognize me? Lin Qi's figure moved and turned into an afterimage, appearing directly in front of Song Tianming. Zhangpeng and Chen Qi, who was held mid-air, fell heavily to the side and spat out blood. Song Tianming was shocked and subconsciously took a few steps back. However, no matter how Song Tianming retreated, Lin Qi was still standing in front of him. However, he didn't see Lin Qi take a single step. In the end, he had no way to retreat as he was at the edge of the stage. He would fall off the stage if he backed further. Song Tianming could only face Lin Qi directly. His eyes flickered, and he said word by word, "Who exactly are you, sir? Why did you attack our Song family?" Song Tianming couldn't recognize Lin Qi at all. After Lin Qi became an Earth Immortal, he had changed too much, although there was still a faint shadow of his previous appearance on his face. Even his voice had changed. It was cold and emotionless. Lin Qi restored his voice to its original state. Lin Qi's lips curled into a mocking smile. You disappoint me, classmate. Classmate. Song Tianming was in disbelief. He recognized Lin Chi's figure, and at the same time, Lin Chi's figure appeared in his mind. Two different figures gradually overlapped in front of his eyes. Boom. You're Lin Chi. Song Tianming was stunned on the spot as if he was struck by lightning. His gaze was filled with fear and disbelief. The man in front of him was Lin Chi. Lin Chi was a Saint Court realm warrior. How was that possible? According to the time of awakening, Lin Chi should have awakened not long ago. And his identity of reincarnation would be at most an ordinary family. No matter how lucky Lin Chi was, he couldn't become a Saint Court realm warrior in such a short time, even if he turned out to become a genius warrior. As far as he knew, 2 of the 3 Saint Court realm warriors in the Dragon Country were almost 100 years old, and the other one was already in his middle age. How could Lin Chi possibly become a Saint Court realm warrior? He had planned for 15 years and even used a super serum. Only then did he become a pre-celestial realm warrior. He was powerful enough to dominate a region in Nanjing City. How come Lin Chi was more powerful than him? Song Tianming was smart. Although he didn't know why Lin Chi could become a Saint Court realm warrior, he quickly realized that what happened today was very likely Lin Chi's doing. It was obvious that Tang Yuro and Lin Chi knew each other from the gaze on her. No wonder Tang Yuro dared to reject him. Song Tianming stared at Lin Chi, gazing like a poisonous snake. At that moment, unwillingness, anger, and doubt replaced fear and occupied his feelings. He had planned for 15 years. As long as he was given another 10 years, Song Tianming would be able to shake the entire country's machinery. At that time, the entire Dragon Country would have to listen to him. That way, he would be able to achieve great achievements. But, Lin Chi appeared at such a critical moment. And he even became a Saint Court realm warrior. It completely disrupted his plan. He is Lin Chi. Lin Xiaoxue, who was in the crowd under the stage, exclaimed in surprise, covering her mouth with her hand. She also heard Lin Chi's voice. But she couldn't believe that the man in front of her, who was like a fallen immortal, was Lin Chi. Lin Chi was very outstanding. He was one of the top students in the entire Nanjing City First High School. He was also very handsome. Lin Xiaoxue had always had an inexplicable feeling for Lin Chi. But now, that man with a heaven-defying ability was Lin Chi. Even Lin Xiaoxue could not help but feel a surge of emotions in her heart. I'm going to kill you. On the stage, the flesh on Song Tianming's face was shaking violently, and his eyes turned scarlet. Lin Chi's sudden visit had completely disrupted his plan. Moreover, it was obvious that Lin Chi was there to seek revenge that day. I don't believe that you're a Saint Court realm warrior. Stop playing tricks, or I'll crush all the bones in your body. Song Tianming lost his mind due to the intense anger. Song Tianming didn't believe that Lin Chi was a Saint Court realm warrior. A poor guy couldn't even afford a reincarnation identity. How could he suddenly become a Saint Court realm warrior? How was Song Tianming supposed to accept that? Die. Song Tianming swung both his fists at Lin Chi with great force. Blue veins like green dragons appeared on his thick arms. It was enough to show the power contained in this punch. I am indeed not at the Saint Court realm. The strong wind from the punch blew against his face. Lin Chi was not moved at all. He said indifferently, I'm a god in this world. Chapter 22. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I won't kill you. I'll let you live well instead. Translator. Nyo.bo Studio Editor. Nyo.bo Studio, I am a god in this world. Everyone heard that. The man on the stage who dared to attack Song Tianming claimed that he was the god of this world. Hiss. Everyone gasped. They were shocked by Lin Chi's arrogance. Although Lin Chi had just threw Song Tianming's subordinates flying through the air, and such a method was indeed terrifying. However, Lin Chi was not Song Tianming's match in the eyes of these guests. Song Tianming's punch would kill that man on the spot. However, the scene that they had imagined did not happen. In the next second, a scene that left them dumbfounded appeared. Song Tianming's raised arms suddenly stiffened and stopped in midair. Then, he directly knelt in front of Lin Chi with a thumping sound. Song Tianming was dumbfounded. Those guests were even more dumbfounded. That was Song Tianming, the overlord of Nanqing City. Judging from his stance just now, wasn't he going to attack Lin Chi? Why did he suddenly kneel in front of Lin Chi? You! Song Tianming roared. He felt an invisible force suppressing him. It was as if a 1,000-pound cauldron was pressing down, directly making him lose the ability to resist and knelt on the ground. Surprised, right? Lin Chi spoke slowly. His gaze was as if he was looking at an animal waiting to be slaughtered. You never thought that we would meet in such a way. Do you think that you can defeat me just because you bought things such as reincarnation identity and super serum? We're former classmates. I should attend since it is your engagement today. This is my surprise for you. I'll give you a chance. Lin Chi looked at Song Tianming, who was kneeling on the ground, and said coldly, as long as you kneel and lick my shoe and acknowledge me as your master, I'll consider letting you go. Otherwise, I'll let you know what regret is. I can make your life worse than death with my current ability. Lin Chi's voice reverberated in the banquet hall. Everyone was silent, not daring to even breathe loudly. Even Song Tianming was not Lin Chi's match. Let alone them. Moreover, they were just guests, who attended the wedding banquet to curry favor with the Song family. Now that the Song family had met such a ruthless person, they could not wait to run away. How could they dare to stand up for the Song family? Moreover, they had long held grudges against the Song family, especially Song Tianming. They couldn't stand what Song Tianming had done. In your dreams. Song Tianming struggled to raise his head, and the bones on his neck made cracking sounds. His angry eyes were bloodshot, and his expression was crazy. If you have the ability, then kill me. He already understood that Lin Chi's strength was difficult to reach. It was very likely that he had reached the level of a stage 2 reincarnator. But how would he, the son of the Song family, agree to lick Lin Chi's shoes? The Song family he cared for was not the Song family of the other world. It was the Song family of the origin world. No matter how strong Lin Chi was in this world, he was still trash in the origin world. There were countless ways to kill Lin Chi as long as he returned to the origin world. Even if Lin Chi became a stage 2 reincarnator, it didn't matter. The Song family was one of the top families in Jiangqing City. Not to mention stage 2 reincarnator, even stage 3, stage 4, and even higher reincarnators existed. What did Lin Chi have to fight with him? That was why he wanted to anger Lin Chi and make him kill him. Ko, although he would lose the opportunity to become a reincarnator, he didn't care. If others lost this opportunity, they were destined to be unable to become reincarnator. That was because they could not afford the high cost of reincarnating. But he was different. Even if he failed this time, he could do it again. Don't worry. I won't kill you. Lin Chi smirked. I will not kill you, and I will also let you live nicely in this world. Song Tianming's pupils contracted. He did not understand what Lin Chi meant. However, from Lin Chi's tone, he could tell that it was not something good. Soon, he understood what Lin Chi meant. Under the control of Lin Chi's spiritual energy, Song Tianming let out a series of screams. All the bones in his body were crushed. It was a real crush. With a series of crackling sounds, the bones in Song Tianming's body were crushed into pieces. Even the world's top surgeons would cry when they saw it and would not be able to treat it. His hands and feet were twisted into a mess, and he fell to the ground like a pile of mud. There was even a pool of yellow liquid flowing out of Song Tianming's body. He had peed. The intense pain could make people lose control of their bodies. Moreover, the bones in his body had been shattered, and he could not control the reactions in his body at all. URG, URG, URG. Song Tianming, whose face was full of pain, could only let out a sound. His throat was also crushed, and he could no longer speak. The gaze he looked at Lin Chi was no longer filled with resentment from before but was filled with shock. At that moment, Lin Chi was the devil in front of him. Lin Chi could make him cripple by using his spiritual energy to destroy all of Song Tianming's nerves. However, only such kind of method could make Song Tianming feel more terrifying. Lin Chi looked at Song Tianming, who had been crippled. He activated his spiritual energy again. It pierced into Song Tianming's mind like a steel needle. The expression on Song Tianming's face suddenly froze, showing a dull expression. Lin Chi had destroyed Song Tianming's sensing ability just now. Song Tianming could no longer feel the outside environment. But his consciousness was still clear. Song Tianming's consciousness was even stronger than the others because he was a reincarnated being. In other words, Song Tianming was like being locked in a dark secret room at that moment. He could not feel the environment outside at all. No matter how strong a person was, they would collapse under such circumstances. They would not be able to endure the loneliness and would soon go crazy. I said that I would not kill you. I will let you live well. Lin Chi reached out his hand and pressed on Song Tianming's head, inserting a powerful life force into him. Song Tianming's injuries were completely healed under the life force. Even his hidden injuries from before had recovered. However, he was still crippled. An earth immortal could reverse life and death. Previously, Lin Chi had made Taoist Master Qingshu of the Divine Firmament Temple regain his youth. Now, Lin Chi had injected a life force into Song Tianming. That life force was enough to cleanse Song Tianming's marrow, heal any injuries, and even extend his life. After Song Tianming used the super serum, his physical fitness far exceeded that of an ordinary person. His life expectancy was at least more than 100 years. Now, with Lin Chi's life force transformation, Lin Chi estimated that Song Tianming could live for at least 150 years in this world. That meant that Song Tianming would have to maintain the vegetative state for nearly 150 years. During these 150 years, he could not feel anything in the outside world. He could only lay on the bed, break down, and being crazy because of it again and again. Chapter 23. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Primitive World Translator. Nyo.bo Studio Editor. Nyo.bo Studio. Just as Lin Xiaoxue was in disbelief, a strange phenomenon suddenly appeared before her eyes. The wanton shop and Lin Chi, who was sitting across from her, suddenly disappeared. What replaced it was a pitch-black and cold universe. Even someone as calm as Lin Xiaoxue was shocked at this moment. However, she found herself floating in this pitch-black and cold universe. She saw the galaxy revolving and large clouds of stars surrounding her. Silence. A deathly silence. Lin Xiaoxue's eyes flickered with fear as she stared blankly at the desolate universe stars in front of her. Everything before her eyes was too real. The reality made her doubt that was she deep in the universe. However, Lin Xiaoxue knew that this was simply impossible. Although this world's technology was advanced, it was still inferior to the origin world. Even the origin world could not make a person reach the universe in an instant. Let alone this world. Therefore, an image quickly appeared in Lin Xiaoxue's mind. Just as she was surprised and in disbelief when Lin Chi told her that he was an earth immortal, the corner of Lin Chi's mouth revealed a faint smile. Lin Xiaoxue did not mind about the smile at all that time. But at that moment, Lin Xiaoxue understood why Lin Chi would smile like that. Everything in front of her could only be Lin Chi's doing. Lin Chi created the illusion in front of her. Although it was an illusion, it was extremely real. The surroundings were dead silent. There was no sound at all. The customers whisper in the wonton shop, and the sound of the traffic outside the shop completely disappeared. There was not even the sound of the wind. The universe was empty. There was no sound. Even though she knew that everything in front of her was an illusion, Lin Xiaoxue was still shocked and could not calm down. She looked at a galaxy not far away. The galaxy was somewhat similar to the other world of reincarnation. She saw an azure planet in this galaxy. With a thought, Lin Xiaoxue's line of sight crossed billions of miles of space-time. The azure planet appeared in Lin Xiaoxue's rock layer. It penetrated through layers of clouds and mist to arrive on this planet. She carefully observed the scene of this planet from the perspective of a creator. The planet was still in a primitive state. It was filled with lush forests, mountains, waterfalls, and oceans. All kinds of wild beasts lived in the forests. The spiritual energy was incomparably dense. The environment of heaven and earth was many times better than it was now. Lin Xiaoxue believed that she would be able to break through to the Saint Core realm within 10 years if she cultivated in such an environment. She saw a primitive human tribe. It was simple, and there were only a few dozen people in the tribe. Although there were only a few dozen people, there were men and women, old and young. All of them had their lean bodies exposed. Their hairs were messy, and only a piece of animal skin was wrapped around their waists. When the women in the tribe saw the men returning from the hunt, their faces were filled with joy. Amidst the cheers, they lit up the smoke and planned to cook some food. The children of the primitive humans surrounded by their sides, breathing in the fragrance from the pot with all their might. Wild beasts roamed freely in this primitive environment. In comparison, humans had higher intelligence, but they were extremely weak. The men of the tribe did not always gain anything from hunting in the mountains. Moreover, there was the risk of encountering large-scale wild beasts. It was already rare for a hunting team of more than 10 people to be able to return safely. Therefore, it was already rare for them to be able to eat a full meal like this. Roar. An earth-shattering roar sounded just as everyone was about to eat a big meal. The surrounding forest shook, and countless birds were startled. A fierce tiger that was more than 10 meters long and looked like a small hill dashed out from the forest. Its two huge eyes stared at the humans in the tribe. The fierce tiger had two extremely long and narrow teeth that were as sharp as blades. Saber-toothed cat. Lin Xiaoxue exclaimed. It was a saber-toothed cat. The saber-toothed cat was a ferocious beast that existed tens of thousands of years ago. It could be said to be one of the most powerful ferocious beasts on land. However, the saber-toothed cat became extinct due to the natural environment. The big-sized saber-toothed cat felt hungry. It just happened to see the human tribe by the side of the mountain, so it dashed out of the mountain forest. Roar. The saber-toothed cat's roar shook the sky. It had already rushed into the human tribe within a few leaps and bounds. All sorts of screams and wails could be heard at that moment. The women were screaming with all their might. Some of the cowards were so frightened by the saber-toothed cat that they collapsed to the ground, their faces filled with shock. The men's faces were filled with panic. They quickly picked up the weapons in their hands and faced the saber-toothed cat with trembling bodies. However, these primitive humans were as tiny as ants in front of the gigantic saber-toothed tiger. The weapons in their hands were just some simple stone tools and wooden sticks. The saber-toothed cat roared, and its large head shook. These humans were directly swallowed and weren't even chewed. These people were not enough for the saber-toothed cat to fill its stomach. The survivors of the tribe pulled the children and hurriedly ran away. However, the saber-toothed cat had already caught up before they could even run far. However, a human child was standing in the same place in such a tragic environment, and he didn't run away in a panic like the others. The child was strong and sturdy. But even he was strong, he was still just a child. Not to mention a child, even the strongest man in the tribe could not escape the fate of being devoured by the saber-toothed cat. However, there was no fear on this child's face. On the contrary, it was replaced by anger. His eyes were fixed on the saber-toothed cat. He witnessed his father and his clansmen being eaten alive by the saber-toothed cat. He clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He wanted revenge. Revenge for his clansmen. He wanted to kill the saber-toothed cat. But that was impossible. How could humans compare to such a large beast? Humans were pitiful food in front of these beasts. Lin Xiaoxue couldn't help but feel a little surprised when she saw the child. She could feel the emotions in this child's heart, and that soaring anger infected her. At this time, the saber-toothed cat also noticed this child. It slowly turned its large body, and its large pupils stared at the human child not far away. The child had the guts to look at it with such a gaze. Roar! The saber-toothed cat roared, and its deafening sound caused the surrounding air to shake. However, the child's expression did not change. He ran towards the saber-toothed cat and picked up the spear on the ground. His body was thin and small, but he was indomitable. The saber-toothed cat opened its bloody mouth and was about to swallow the child. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud sound. The saber-toothed cat's huge head fell to the ground, spitting out a large amount of blood. It was Lin Xiaoxue who made the move. She couldn't bear to see this child dying in the tiger's stomach. In this illusion, she was the creator. The saber-toothed cat's head fell to the ground with just a thought from her. The child's eyes flashed with surprise as he looked around. He saw a person, a beautiful woman. Chapter 24. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Changes in Martial Arts Translator. Nyo I.bo Studio Editor. Nyo I.bo Studio. Lin Xiaoxue appeared in front of the child. She squatted down and looked at the child in front of her. Both of them did not speak. The little boy knew that the person in front of him had saved him. His eyes were filled with gratitude and shock. The saber-toothed cat, which even the strongest warrior in the tribe could not subdue, was killed by the person in front of him. Moreover, the little boy did not even see Lin Xiaoxue make a move. And all of a sudden, the saber-toothed cat's head fell off. The little boy could not understand the situation in front of him at all. Lin Xiaoxue smiled like a spring breeze, melting the snow in winter. She stretched out her finger toward the little boy. The little boy also extended his finger, and the two fingers touched each other in mid-air. In an instant, the little boy's expression froze, and his eyes flickered with light. Lin Xiaoxue disappeared. She didn't do anything, but space and time intersected the moment their fingers touched. The little boy's brain was expanded by a mysterious power, and the door to wisdom in it was opened. She didn't leave. Instead, she returned to her creator's perspective and observed the little boy. The boy, who was given great wisdom, began to imitate the movements of wild beasts, creating primitive martial arts. Although it seemed very crude in front of Lin Xiaoxue and was even inferior to the most basic martial arts in the world, this was indeed the beginning of the martial arts in this world. Year after year, day after day, the boy continued to practice martial arts. He grew into the strongest warrior in the tribe and was already able to kill powerful beasts in the forest. At the same time, he spread martial arts all over the world. Martial arts ushered in the first time for the development of martial arts, and he was known as the ancestor of martial art. That year, a skinny little boy grew up and became the ancestor of martial art. At the time of the ancestor of martial arts did not decline because of this. Instead, it continued to develop over tens of thousands of years. Powerful warriors were born one after another. They could break rivers with one move and crush mountains and rivers with one punch. The world changed. Tens of thousands of years passed in an instant. Martial arts evolved to an extremely terrifying degree. Some powerful warriors were called Earth Immortals. They were able to control the world and mobilize the power of the world. Lin Xiaoxue witnessed the birth, development, and peak of the martial path in this world. She saw the appearance of Earth Immortals. The process had completely enriched her martial arts foundation. In the past, she did not understand martial arts theory. She suddenly understood everything after witnessing the birth of Earth Immortals. She no longer any confusion in the martial arts theory. The road was wide and flat in front of her. She only needed to follow this road, and she would be able to become an Earth Immortal. But was it possible? The reincarnation otherworld was not the primitive world in front of her. The heaven and earth aura had weakened, and it no longer supported the cultivation of Earth Immortal. Suddenly, she remembered what Lin Chi had said. He was already an Earth Immortal. Could it be that this world could bring up an Earth Immortal? The illusion in front of him disappeared. It returned to chaos. The human voice entered her ears again. When Lin Xiaoxue opened her eyes, the Lin Qi in front of her had already disappeared. The wonton in his bowl had already been eaten up. The wonton in her bowl was still steaming. The clock on the wall showed that only 5 minutes had passed. Yet, she had spent tens of thousands of years in the illusion. Just as Lin Xiaoxue had mixed feelings, her whole body froze as if she had noticed something. She had broken through her realm. Before, she was only a chi-absorbing realm warrior. Now, the surging power in Lin Xiaoxue's body made her lose her mind instantly. A translucent baby that looked somewhat similar to Lin Xiaoxue was sitting cross-legged in her mind, absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. The biggest symbol of the Saint Core realm was that it could form a translucent Saint Core baby in their mind. In 5 minutes, Lin Xiaoxue had become a Saint Core realm warrior in one leap. Lin Xiaoxue's jaw dropped, and her eyes were full of shock. There were only 3 Saint Core realm warriors in the entire dragon country. This world was not like the primitive world in the illusion. There were pre-celestial experts everywhere, and there were as many Saint Core realm warriors. There were even many Earth Immortals. The Saint Core realm meant that one had reached the peak of martial arts in this world. One might not even be able to become a Saint Core realm warrior even after going through many years of tough cultivation. But she had become a Saint Core realm warrior at that moment. Could it be that Lin Chi was an Earth Immortal? Only an Earth Immortal could make him witness tens of thousands of years of changes in martial arts in the illusion. Only an Earth Immortal could make her strive from a chi-absorbing realm warrior to a Saint Core realm warrior in 5 minutes. Suddenly, Lin Xiaoxue seemed to have sensed something. She suddenly turned her head and on the opposite side of the distant street, Lin Chi stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Lin Xiaoxue with a faint smile. His short hair had turned into long hair that fluttered in the wind. He exuded an independent and otherworldly temperament as if he had descended into the mortal world. He used his supreme telekinesis to re-enact the changes of martial arts in this world in Lin Xiaoxue's mind. Although it was not real, it contained his understanding of martial arts. The effect was many times better compared to directly narrating it. Although the spiritual energy in this world was scarce and becoming an Earth Immortal was difficult, it did not mean that there was no way. Lin Chi planted a martial arts seed in Lin Xiaoxue's body, which was enough for her to glimpse the Earth Immortal realm. He believed that with Lin Xiaoxue's talent, she would step into the Earth Immortal realm in less than 10 years. It was enough for her to achieve great achievements in this world. Back then, Lin Xiaoxue was the only one who stood up for him when Song Tianming ordered him around and wanted to take revenge on him. Today, all of this was Lin Chi's gift to Lin Xiaoxue. The next morning, on the roof of a skyscraper beside the tide-observing bridge, Lin Chi stood with his hands behind his back, overlooking the wide river in the distance. His eyes twinkled as if he was deep in thought. After successfully taking revenge on Song Tianming and his men the day before, Lin Chi had already fallen into an indescribable magical realm. His body and mind were relaxed for no reason, and even his realm seemed to be slightly relaxed. That made Lin Chi feel extremely surprised. Previously, he had suspected whether there was a higher realm above the Earth Immortal. The Earth Immortals were not omnipotent after all. Although Lin Chi was powerful, he was still alone. Although he did not need to eat or drink, and ordinary attacks could not hurt him. But he would still die. He would still die from a decline in his chi and blood 300 years later, and his cultivation would scatter between heaven and earth. Just like an emperor who ruled the world, although he owned the world, he would still die. But he was not willing to die just like that. He wanted to pursue immortality and control the world forever. Lin Chi naturally had the same idea. A powerful force was too addictive. Lin Chi did not want to lose such power or aging and dying. The world of martial arts was only a low-level world. There were even higher-level worlds, such as the world of immortal cultivation. Cultivators in the world of immortal cultivation would be able to live forever and become immortals. Lin Chi did not know if this world would make him take a step forward. Lin Chi did not think much about it at that time. The idea once again surfaced in Lin Chi's mind now that he had dealt with Song Tianming. Chapter 25. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rolling on the Battlefield. Translator. Nyo I.bo Studio Editor. Nyo I.bo Studio, sir. The matter has been settled. Su Hui arrived. He bowed respectfully, standing behind Lin Chi. His body was tainted with a trace of killing intent. Last night, he used all means to eliminate the Song family from Nanjing City. Tang Yuro became the head of the Tang family with Su Hui's support. Those disobedient Tang family disciples were naturally killed by Su Hui in a bloody method. The resources of the Song family were all taken away by the Tang family. In less than a year, the Tang family would be able to take in the resources of the Song family and become the #1 family in Nanjing City. Of course, some reckless families saw the fall of the Song family and took action to snatch the resources of the Song family. In the end, they paid a painful price and were filled with regret. Okay. Lin Chi placed his hands behind his back and did not turn around. Is your major attack the army-shattering fist? Su Hui's entire body trembled as a flash of surprise flashed across his eyes. But Su Hui felt relieved soon. Lin Chi's methods had long exceeded Su Hui's imagination. It was perfectly normal even if Lin Chi knew about him. He did majorly learn the army-shattering fist. That was the fist technique that was passed down in the army and was very common. It did not require a warrior to have outstanding talent. Its lethality was especially strong. He had practiced the army-shattering fist for more than 10 years and had already reached a point where he couldn't improve. He was still stuck at the peak of the Foundation establishment realm. It was enough to prove Su Hui's talent for being able to become a peak Foundation establishment realm warrior at the age of 20.6 and to practice an ordinary martial arts technique like the army-shattering fist. Once Su Hui broke through and became a pre-celestial realm warrior, he would be directly transferred to the center and become the core warrior of the Martial Arts League. After all, the Martial Arts League's leader was only a peak pre-celestial realm warrior. The army-shattering fist is just a very ordinary cultivation technique. You are already considered pretty good to be able to cultivate it to this level. Lin Chi's voice was calm. I'll bestow you a good fortune. Let's see how much you can grasp. The next second, the heaven and earth's color changed in Su Hui's view. He was on an ancient battlefield. The troops of the two countries were engaged in an intense battle. They used the most primitive cold weapons to kill each other. Su Hui became one of the soldiers. He wore simple armor and held a long saber in his hand. His companion beside him had been beheaded before he could even react. Blood spurted out like a fountain. The boiling hot blood splashed on Su Hui's face. Su Hui immediately reacted due to the shock. Su Hui's mind, which was already extremely firm having undergone all kinds of hell-like training, was shaken at that moment. He knew that this was a mental illusion that Lin Chi had created for him. He had become a soldier without any cultivation, but his martial arts memories and fighting qualities were still there. A long spear was like a poisonous snake as it stabbed towards him. Su Hui reacted quickly. He took a deep breath, and the blood in his body boiled. The long saber in his hand turned into a ray of cold light and hacked heavily onto the long spear. Then, he lifted it, and the head on the ground was directly chopped off by him. Awesome! Su Hui's eyes showed excitement. Although his face was stained with blood, it was difficult to hide the excitement in his heart. He had practiced the army-shattering fist for more than 10 years, but the reason why he could not improve it was mostly because of the army-shattering fist itself. The army-shattering fist was a killing fist technique on the battlefield. It could be improved only after experiencing fighting and killing on the battlefield. Although Su Hui had carried out all kinds of dangerous missions and killed countless powerful enemies over the years, he had never experienced a real war. The battlefield was constantly changing. He had to face all kinds of attacks from all directions alone. He would die on the spot if he were not careful. It was not something that could be compared to an individual battle. But now, Lin Chi saw through his problem directly. He wanted to create a war that was comparable to reality for him. He wanted him to experience the excitement and fierceness of war. That was the fortune that Lin Chi gave him. Again. Su Hui was not afraid at all facing the flooded enemy's soldiers. He charged forward like a fierce tiger. A human head would fall to the ground each time he swung his saber. For a moment, the soldiers on both sides looked at the fierce Su Hui in shock. Su Hui was simply a killing machine. Moreover, he seemed to not feel fatigued at all. He used all of his strength on each cut without holding back at all. That caused the enemy soldiers to show fear on their faces. They did not even dare to fight with Su Hui. Who would not be afraid of such a reckless fool? Su Hui did not care so much. He kept swinging his saber and reaping the heads of the enemy soldiers. The aura on his body became stronger and stronger. Su Hui gave up on using his saber and performed the army-shattering fist to attack the enemy. It was not that Su Hui was not afraid of death. Firstly, Su Hui knew that everything in front of him was an illusion. It would be fake even if he died on the battlefield. Therefore, Su Hui was not afraid at all. Secondly, Su Hui treasured this opportunity very much. He would not have been able to come into contact with such a real ancient war if it was not because of Lin Chi. Lin Chi had given him this opportunity. How much he could get would depend on his ability. That was why Su Hui did not care and used everything he had learned on the battlefield. Although danger lurked everywhere on the battlefield, Su Hui's mind was extremely calm. He gradually entered a state of emptiness. His aura suddenly erupted, and the space around him faintly shook. Roar! Su Hui swung out a fist, tearing through the air. A resounding sound like the roar of a dragon rang out. There was an additional feeling of iron and blood that could suppress mountains and rivers within the technique of the fist. It wasn't like before, where there was only killing intent. It was like a person who possessed a soul was considered a complete person. If one didn't have a soul, then they would be an empty shell. What was the difference between them and a vegetated person? Now, there was a soul in Su Hui's boxing. Su Hui opened his eyes, bursting with excitement. He excited to look at his thick hands. Clenching both fists, a strong will of the fist emerged. It was like it can punch through everything in the world. He broke through. Not only did he break through. Even the realm has broken through. The pre-celestial realm. Thank you, sir. Su Hui's voice trembled as he looked at Lin Chi excitedly. You deserve this. Lin Chi said plainly, take good care of Song Tianming. Yes. Sir, are you leaving? Su Hui asked. That's right. I'm only here to get rid of the Song family's name. I'll naturally have to leave once the matter is settled. Lin Chi turned around and looked at Su Hui. However, you have to send me the information of the top experts of the Dragon Country and other countries before I leave. Next, I will go and give pointers to the experts of the Dragon Country, but you have to deliberately claim that I injured them with malice and then issue a wanted order. Su Hui was shocked and instantly understood what Lin Chi meant. Not only did Lin Chi want to give pointers to the martial arts experts of the Dragon Country, but he also wanted to attack the martial arts experts of other countries. Lin Chi had once promised the Martial Arts League team leader that he would help the Dragon Country kill the top experts of other countries. At that time, the Martial Arts League leader did not believe it. The Martial Arts League leader was completely convinced after Lin Chi showed that he was an Earth Immortal. However, at that time, he wanted to hire Lin Chi to join the Martial Arts League. Su Hui had also heard about this matter. He did not expect that Lin Chi would attack the warriors of other countries. Chapter 26 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Who on earth is that man? Translator. Nyo.bo Studio Editor. Nyo.bo Studio. Moreover, Lin Chi was going to enlighten the top experts of the Dragon Country. That would be a joyous event for the martial arts of the Dragon Country. And the authorities would announce to the public that Lin Chi had provoked them maliciously and even injured these warriors, issuing a wanted order for Lin Chi. That way, they would not suspect that it was the arrangement of the Dragon Country, even if Lin Chi killed the warriors of other countries in the future. There was nothing they could say, even if they suspected. After all, Lin Chi had even injured his country in the eyes of outsiders. He was insane and not deliberately arranged by the Dragon Country. Soon, Su Hui handed over the information of the 3 great Saint Core realm warriors of the Dragon Country and the top warriors of other countries to Lin Chi. Lin Chi memorized the information with just a casual glance. Then, he jumped down from the top of the building under Su Hui's shocked gaze. The strong wind blew, and Lin Chi's long hair danced in the wind. Lin Chi sprinted wildly toward the Tide Observing Bridge after reaching the ground. The Tide Observing Bridge was one of the wonders of the South City. It spanned across both banks of the river and was thousands of meters wide. It was like a long steel dragon crossing the river, which was very majestic and magnificent. It was still early in the morning. A middle-aged man stared blankly at the camera beside him. He gulped, and a shocked expression appeared on his face. He was a photographer and wanted to take a picture of the sunrise on the river. However, he saw a long-haired young man running toward the Tide Observing Bridge and jumping off the bridge. He wanted to rush up to the young man, but he was too far away from him and couldn't make it in time. He could only shout with all his might, but unfortunately, he couldn't stop him. The young man ignored him and directly jumped off. The Tide Observing Bridge was at least tens of meters above the surface of the river. The river was torrential and bottomless. There was no way he could survive such a high jump, no matter how good the swimmer was. However, what happened next stunned him. Not only did the young man not fall into the river, but he was also safe and sound. He was floating on the surface of the water and running wildly on the surface of the river. He almost thought he was dreaming. He slapped himself hard. The intense pain made him realize that everything in front of him was not a dream. The young man seemed to be running on a flat and open track. There was not even a splash of water. Only ripples were formed under his feet. Soon, the young man turned into a long line and ran into the distance. He disappeared from his sight after a moment. He knew that there were warriors in this world. But even warriors could not run on the water. A Saint Core realm warrior could float in the air and perhaps run on the surface of the water. However, it was impossible to run on the water's surface for a long time like this young man. That would consume a large amount of energy, and even a Saint Core realm warrior could avoid doing so. Who on earth was that man? The young man had already disappeared by the time the middle-aged man reacted, which made him extremely regretful. However, he quickly looked at the camera beside him. The camera had already started working, which meant that the scene just now had been recorded by the camera. The middle-aged man instantly became excited. He wanted to upload the content to the internet. And he uploaded it just like that without any editing. BVEC because he thought that the scene was enough to shock him, and he didn't need to edit it at all. Soon, he uploaded the video to the internet. It had become shocking news on the internet in seconds. The video was shared and liked millions of times, and it immediately became popular. Many people were shocked. After seeing the young man running on the river, their mouths were wide open in disbelief. Was he still human? It caused a crazy discussion about the identity of the young man on the internet. Of course, many people thought that the video was made up and was not real at all. They also took out the so-called evidence. The young man shouldn't be able to run on the river surface for a long time, even if this young man was a warrior. Because it would consume a lot of energy, even a Saint Core realm warrior could only stay on the river surface for a short period. Furthermore, how could a Saint Core realm warrior jump off the tide, observing bridge and run wildly on the surface of the river? It was impossible, all right. They received the support of many people the moment these doubts were voiced. After all, it was reasonable and difficult not to be convinced. However, there were still a large number of people who believed it. After all, they could not see any edits or special effects from the video. Even the most advanced foreign sci-fi movies would expose some editing effects. Several people recognized the young man who was running on the river. It was Lin Chi, who had comprehended the legendary stone tablet from the Divine Firmament Temple a few days ago. Why did they think that Lin Chi had comprehended the legendary stone tablet? It was because Taoist Master Qingshu of the Divine Firmament Temple had specially made a statement on the internet after Lin Chi left. Taoist Master Qingshu claimed that Lin Chi had already deciphered the contents of the legendary stone tablet and obtained the martial art, Scripture of the Thunder Monarch, created by the Divine Firmament Temple's founder in the statement. He had also returned the Scripture of the Thunder Monarch to the Divine Firmament Temple. And the image of Lin Chi floating in the void and sitting there silently appeared in the video uploaded by the netizens previously. Those who knew about Lin Chi hurriedly searched for Lin Chi's video on the internet. They were extremely shocked after watching it. Lin Chi was awesome. That he could decipher the contents of the legendary stone tablet of the Divine Firmament Temple and obtain the cultivation technique of the Divine Firmament Temple's founder. The Divine Firmament Temple's founder was recorded in the books as an earth immortal warrior from 1,000 years ago. He was extremely powerful. Even the top warriors of the Dragon Country had gained nothing from comprehending the legendary stone monument. They even claimed that it was only Taoist scriptures and that there was no inherited cultivation method at all. However, Lin Chi managed to comprehend it. Moreover, Lin Chi was floating in the void. Only a Saint Core realm warrior could do this. Therefore, many people guessed that Lin Chi was very likely an expert who had been hidden from the world all this time. Perhaps he was even stronger than a Saint Core realm warrior. Otherwise, there was no way to explain why Lin Chi could run on the surface of the river. For a time, there was a flurry of discussion about Lin Chi's identity on the internet. However, no matter what methods they used, they could not find any information about Lin Chi. Some people even used AI to identify Lin Chi's face, but they could not find any information about him. The world was in the era of information technology. Anyone who lived in this world would leave traces. It was not difficult as long as one wanted to find out the identity of a person. But they could not find any information about Lin Chi's identity, which made everyone feel incredulous and even very surprised. However, some people said that Lin Chi was a hidden expert. He had been living in seclusion in the mountains and cultivating and had never appeared in the city. That was why there was no information about him. However, that was because the Martial Arts League had classified Lin Chi's information as a top secret of the country. No one had the right to know about Lin Chi's information except for the top leaders of the Dragon Country. All the information of Lin Chi that could be searched had been deleted by Martial Arts League. Chapter 27. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Challenging Shaolin Translator. Nyo I.bo Studio Editor. Nyo I.bo Studio on Mount Song. Shaolin Temple. The main hall of the Dragon Country's Buddhism and Zen sections. It was also the eminent authority of martial arts. Legend said that all martial arts in the world originated from Shaolin. Shaolin Temple was one of the few martial arts sects in the Dragon Country, which had a 1,000-year heritage. Some martial arts sects had a 1,000-year heritage, such as Mount Wudang and Mount Longhu, other than Shaolin Temple. Although the Divine Firmament Temple also had a 1,000-year heritage, its martial arts heritage had been cut off for hundreds of years. Although it had recently regained its ancestral heritage, it could not be restored in a short period. Tourists gathered in Shaolin Temple. Some came to burn incense and worship Buddha. Some came to enjoy the scenery. Some came to meditate and comprehend the Tao. Some came to learn from the Master. After all, Shaolin martial monks were very famous in the Dragon Country and the entire world. Many people came to learn martial arts because of their fame. However, everyone's gaze was on a young man at that moment. The initially noisy Zen temple suddenly became extremely quiet. Lin Chi slowly walked over with his hands behind his back as if he was strolling in a garden. He saw everyone looking at him as soon as he walked in. However, Lin Chi was already used to that kind of scene. Lin Chi's level of life had already surpassed everyone in this world after he became an Earth Immortal. It could even be described as the difference between an immortal and a mortal. It was difficult not to attract attention. Some people came back to their senses and took out their phones one after another to take photos of Lin Chi. Then, they posted them on their WeChat Moments, Weibo, Douyin, and so on. The topic was nothing more than that there was such a man in the world. He was as refined as jade, and he was unparalleled in this world, which caused a group of girls to crazily like his photos. Lin Chi's face did not have the slightest fluctuation. He indifferently glanced at the Shaolin Temple. Su Hui had told Lin Chi about one of the 3 great Sane Core Realm warriors of the Dragon Country was in the Shaolin Temple. Lin Chi was also slightly surprised at that time. He had not expected that this other world had a Shaolin Temple. Moreover, it was very similar to the world he had transmigrated. The Shaolin Temple in front of him did not look like a 1,000-year-old ancient temple. Instead, it was filled with a commercial aura. Lin Chi could not help but frown. However, Su Hui would not fool him. Lin Chi stood still and slowly said, "I've heard that the Shaolin Temple is famous for its martial arts. All martial arts in the world originate from the Shaolin Temple. I've come to challenge today." Lin Chi's voice was very calm, and he did not roar. However, everyone in the Shaolin Temple could hear it clearly, whether they were tourists or monks, whether they were close or far away. It was as if those words were whispered to them. That made everyone very surprised. It was normal for everyone in the Shaolin Temple to hear that if Lin Chi used a technique like the lion roar. After all, the sound could spread far and wide under that kind of roar. However, the eardrums of the tourists who were closer to Lin Chi would be ruptured if he used a roar technique. It was even possible that they would deafen. However, Lin Chi seemed to have casually said that, and everyone heard it. What? Is this young man crazy? He came to challenge the Shaolin Temple. The Shaolin Temple is a great place. This young man is too arrogant. A martial monk will come later and teach this young man how to behave. Young people nowadays really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The monks of Shaolin Temple are all highly respected. I reckon they won't bother with this young man. Wait, don't you guys feel that this person looks a little familiar? Now that you mention it, he does look a little familiar. I want to know where I've seen him before. He is the person who jumped off the tide, observing bridge yesterday and ran madly on the surface of the water. Someone recognized Lin Chi. A wave of exclamations quickly erupted from the crowd. The crowd immediately exploded as if the water was bombed. They did not expect that Lin Chi, who had caused a hot topic on the internet the day before, would come to the Shaolin Temple that day to challenge them. Everyone's curiosity ignited for a moment. They had some doubts about the video of Lin Chi running across the river the day before at first. It was just enough to answer the doubts in their hearts now that he wanted to challenge the Shaolin Temple. He could challenge the Shaolin Temple if he could run across the water. However, the Shaolin Temple was a martial arts sect that had been passed down for thousands of years. Could Lin Chi succeed in challenging it? In the Mahavira Hall located in the inner courtyard of the Shaolin Temple, there was a group of monks surrounding under the golden body of the tall Buddha. Among them was the abbot of the Shaolin Temple. He wore a red kasaya and had a bitter smile on his face. They had all heard Lin Chi's voice. They had also received information from the Martial Arts League that Lin Chi would come to the Shaolin Temple to challenge. However, they had not expected Lin Chi to act so quickly. It was so soon that they somewhat caught off guard. Moreover, he was acting in such a domineering manner. Such a challenge was not a private spar. A private spar did not need to be announced publicly regardless of the outcome. It would not affect the Shaolin Temple in any way. However, the result of the victory or defeat would have to be announced to the world for such a challenge. It would be fine if the Shaolin Temple won. Everyone would not feel that it was strange. After all, the Shaolin Temple had 1,000 years of history. However, it would cause the entire world to be shocked if Lin Chi won. The impact on the Shaolin Temple was unknown. It would cause shock to the world if it were spread that the grand thousand-year-old ancient temple could not even win against a young man. The temple would be a laughing stock of the world. The abbot of Shaolin Temple, Yongxin, had a bitter expression on his face at that moment. He had mixed feelings in his heart. Outsiders might not know about the situation of Shaolin Temple, but how could an abbot like him not know? Currently, there were not many monks who had real cultivation of high-quality martial arts in the temple. Those so-called martial monks only wanted to promote the reputation of the Shaolin Temple and mastered some fancy martial arts. It was difficult to call it professional. Even he, the dignified abbot of the Shaolin Temple, did not know any martial arts at all. Instead, he was obsessed with business, trying to turn the Shaolin Temple into the world's largest historical site to obtain more resources. Senior, Lin Chi's tone is too arrogant. He dares to challenge us in public. A middle-aged monk had an unfriendly expression as he said sternly, "Let me go out and meet him." What kind of martial arts can a young man have? I'm afraid he's just trying to use the reputation of the Shaolin Temple to hype himself up. The other monks agreed as soon as he said this. That's right. All these years, there have always been people using the name of challenging to make themselves famous, but we ignored them. That caused many people in the world to think that Shaolin Temple is just a facade. We can't tolerate it anymore this time. How dare a young man act so arrogantly? We must teach him a good lesson. Only then will our Shaolin martial arts become more profound. Senior. The abbot, Yongxin, frowned in silence. The monks who had spoken before him had all cultivated the real high-level martial arts of the Shaolin Temple, so their strength was rather formidable. That was also one of the reasons why the Shaolin Temple was still able to maintain the title of belonging to the great martial arts. Although the Shaolin Temple had declined, there were still experts. However, he had received a message from the Martial Arts League that the Lin Chi who had come to challenge was not an ordinary person. The message said that Lin Chi was an immortal of this world. He was far beyond the Saint Core realm. Hiss. When he saw that message. The abbot, Yongxin gasped. Chapter 28. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shaolin's Hidden Monk Translator. Nyo.bo Studio Editor. Nyo.bo Studio. There was no doubt about Martial Arts League's words. That young man was not simple for the Martial Arts League to define him as a living immortal. Therefore, when the martial monks were filled with righteous indignation and wanted to go out and teach Lin Qi a lesson, the abbot, Yongxin, did not say a word. He was speechless. He was a living immortal. How could they fight against him? They would not be a match for Lin Qi even if they swarmed out to fight him. Moreover, they would make Shaolin lose its reputation. How would the world think about them if the news were to spread? How could Shaolin be so shameless facing a young man? At present, in the Mahavira hall, Yongxin was silent. The other martial monks had indignant looks on their faces. They were still clamoring to go out and teach Lin Qi a lesson. Senior Abbot. Abbot, give us the permission. The abbot, Yongxin, sighed helplessly. Everyone, you don't know that this young man has a background. Oh. Could it be that this young man has an extraordinary background? The monks stopped their discussion. They subconsciously thought that Lin Qi was the son of an influential family. After all, such a situation was not rare. There were often influential people who came to the Shaolin Temple to challenge. The martial monks did not care. On the contrary, they were even more indignant. Abbot, so what if this youth is the son of an influential family? He was rude at first. He could say nothing even if we punish him a little. Yes, even if the officials of the current dynasty were respectful when they came to Shaolin Temple. How could a youth like him be so rude? The martial monks thought that Yongxin was worried about the young man's background. However, Yongxin shook his head. This young man is not the son of a noble. If he is not the son of a noble, then what is his identity? The martial monks were stunned and asked suspiciously. A letter from Martial Arts League. This youth is an immortal of the present age. His martial cultivation is unfathomable. All the monks in the hall were stunned when Yongxin said that. An immortal of the present age. They were shaken, and they could not believe it. Yongxian knew that they did not believe it by looking at their expressions. He let out a long sigh and said, "It must not be fake since Martial Arts League has said so." These martial monks were the core of the Shaolin Temple. Naturally, they knew about the existence of the Martial Arts League. Martial Arts League was the most mysterious organization in the Dragon Country. It was directly managed by the Supreme Leader. It had an extremely high status and power, and it was above the local government. It was also responsible for the responsibility of the warriors of the Dragon Country. Although these martial monks found it hard to believe in their hearts, they had to accept this fact. Everyone's expression became strange. The martial monk who was still shouting to teach Lin Qi a lesson just now immediately shut up. Is there any other expert monk who is willing to accept the challenge? The martial monks looked at each other. They looked at each other and then fell silent. What kind of joke was that? The young man was suspected to be a present immortal. The immortal at present age meant he was an earth immortal. How could they fight against an earth immortal? The highest one was only at the peak of the pre-celestial realm among the martial monks. He was still a long way from the Saint Core realm. He would probably die on the spot if he fought against an earth immortal. Why don't we ask Shu, brother of their master, to accept the challenge? A monk spoke out at the moment. Yongxin's eyes lit up. The Shu that monk mentioned was the Saint Core realm warrior in the Shaolin Temple. One of the 3 Saint Core realm warriors in the Dragon Country. He was a hidden monk in the Shaolin Buddhist scripture library. He usually hid in the Buddhist scripture library and rarely came out. Amitba. Shu is the only one who can deal with this young man now. Yongxin quickly led a group of monks to look for the hidden monk. In the Buddhist scripture library. It was the most important place of the Shaolin Temple. It was located at the top of Mount Song and was surrounded by cliffs. It had cornice and corners. It was very magnificent. Usually, only monks from the Shaolin Temple could come to the scripture pavilion. Therefore, the surroundings were quiet and calm. A burst of hurried footsteps shattered the calm and silence of the Buddhist scripture library at that moment. Shu, Yongxin requests to meet. Yongxin led all the monks and stood respectfully outside the Buddhist scripture library. No one responded from the Buddhist scripture library. Yongxin was not surprised and continued, Shu, a young man suspected to be an earth immortal has come to challenge. He is currently outside the mountain gate. In the entire temple, only Shu can deal with the current situation. This matter concerns the reputation of Shaolin Temple. Otherwise, Yongxin wouldn't have dared to disturb you, Shu. An earth immortal. A mellow and aged voice came from within the Buddhist scripture library. Yongxin was overjoyed when he heard that. The hidden monk had lived in seclusion in the Buddhist scripture library for decades. Just the time he had lived in seclusion was even older than his age. He rarely showed his face, and the number of people in the Shaolin Temple who had seen the hidden monk was fewer than 10. Even Yongxin had only seen the hidden monk a few times in the past few decades. The hidden monk would not appear at all if there were nothing important. He would most likely agree to this matter since he responded. He hurriedly said, "That's right. It's not Yongxin talking nonsense, but a message from someone in the martial arts league stated that. Then this should not be fake. Shu, you have been stuck in the Saint Core realm for many years. If you can fight with this person, you will be able to break through the barrier and break through the Earth Immortal realm. It will also protect Shaolin's reputation." Yongxin's words were beautifully placed. He could not even think of any reason for the hidden monk to refuse. The hidden monk had lived for nearly 100 years. The only thing that could affect him was to improve his martial arts. How would he not show up when now that a living Earth Immortal was right in front of him? As expected. Just as Yongxin finished speaking. Clang! A window in the Buddhist scripture library opened, and a figure jumped down from it. That person was wearing a green monk robe. His hair and beard were white, and a transcendent aura was circulating his body. He was none other than the Shaolin hidden monk. "Welcome, Shu." Everyone's faces were filled with excitement upon seeing the hidden monk. That was a mythical figure of Shaolin who had lived for more than 100 years. Shaolin was able to maintain its reputation as the greatest martial arts because of the presence of the hidden monk who was in the Saint Core realm. The hidden monk swept his gaze across everyone calmly. He had been in seclusion in the Buddhist scripture library for decades, and that day was the first time he walked out of the Buddhist scripture library. He could not help but feel a little emotional. I didn't expect that there would still be people in this world who could become an earth immortal. Fine, this old monk will go and experience the splendor of an earth immortal. With that, the hidden monk moved. He directly leaped down from the cliff and circled in the air like a great eagle spreading its wings. Everyone's faces were instantly filled with shock. Saint Core realm warriors were indeed powerful. That cliff was over 1,000 meters high, and there was a vast forest in the basement. Even a huge rock would be smashed into pieces if it fell from the top of the cliff. However, the hidden monk was safe and sound. He stepped lightly in the air and rushed toward the gate of the mountain. He had already disappeared in just a few leaps. An ordinary person would be so shocked that their jaws would drop out if they saw that scene. It was not a joke. An old man over 100 years old jumped down from the cliff. Not only was he fine, but he was also even running and circling in the air. Yongxin and the group of monks looked at each other in shock. What was the difference between a hidden monk and an earth immortal of the present? Do you guys think that Shu is a match for that young man? It's hard to say. Perhaps that young man is only at the peak of the Saint Core realm. A Saint Core realm is already so powerful. I wonder how terrifying an Earth Immortal would be. Sigh, I hope Shu can fight against that young man. Chapter 29. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Arhat Fist Intent Translator. Nyo I.bo Studio Editor. Nyo I.bo Studio. At the gate of the mountain that Shaolin was located. The hidden monk jumped down from the cliff. The hidden monk saw Lin Chi as soon as he reached the mountain gate. The hidden monk didn't even need to search for him. He recognized Lin Chi with just one look. At the same time, he was moved. Lin Chi just stood casually outside the mountain gate. He was dressed in white, had black hair, and stayed away from the outside world. That was the feeling that Lin Chi gave to the tourists who were watching from the side. But it was completely different in the eyes of the hidden monk. Lin Chi was a Buddha. The place where he stood was the Buddhist kingdom of the human world. Faint Buddhist chants were circulating him. Previously, the hidden monk did not take Yongxin's words seriously. He also did not believe that Lin Chi was an Earth Immortal. After all, at the level of the hidden monk, he would naturally understand the flaws of this world. An Earth Immortal couldn't appear again. But now, after the hidden monk saw Lin Chi, he believed him. The moment he saw Lin Chi, he heard the supreme Buddhist voice. It preached by his ear, causing his body and mind to be pure, and he fell into a state of enlightenment. His realm, which had stagnated for many years, was slightly loosened. So there were Earth Immortals in this world. The hidden monk suppressed the excitement in his heart and bowed to Lin Chi. Amitba, this old monk greets you, almsgiver. I didn't expect you to be so talented, to be able to become an immortal in such a natural environment. This old monk is deeply impressed. Thank you, almsgiver, for coming here to specially guide me. The hidden monk could sense that the young man had no malice intends. Since there was no malice intended and Lin Chi was already an Earth Immortal, he didn't need to make things difficult for Shaolin. The only explanation was that Lin Chi wanted to give Shaolin some pointers to improve the martial arts of the Dragon Country. Lin Chi waved his hand and said indifferently, "Old monk, I'm not here just to give you some pointers. Shaolin has been passed down for thousands of years. There is a saying that all martial arts in the world have originated from Shaolin. I came here just in time to experience the uniqueness of Shaolin's martial arts. Come on, cut the crap." Lin Chi was decisive and took a stance. A terrifying pressure was emitted from Lin Chi's body, making it difficult for everyone to breathe. The hidden monk put his palms together and said, "I will not disappoint you, almsgiver." As soon as he finished speaking, the aura of the hidden monk instantly changed. He was still an old monk in the eyes of everyone just a moment ago, and there was the possibility of him falling to the ground and not being able to get up at any time. But now, the aura of the hidden monk greatly increased. His entire monk robe and beard fluttered without any wind, and his eyes flickered with a bright light. The hidden monk punched out, shaking the sky and earth. The tourists at the scene felt the ground tremble. "This is the Arhat Fist." The monk shouted. The fists moved as if the Arhats were still alive. 18 Arhats appeared in everyone's eyes as the monk punched out. Some were subduing dragons, some were subduing tigers, some were crouching, and some were sleeping. Of course, the hidden monk couldn't do so many things in an instant. That was the fist intent. The hidden monk's fist intent was enough to create an illusion. It was a kind of spiritual impact to an ordinary warrior, which able to intimidate the opponent's mind in terms of spirit and aura. The hidden monk could be considered an expert in this world just based on this point. Back then, Su Hui's army shattering fist was improved with the help of Lin Chi. Because he made a tint of fist intent. It allowed Su Hui to cross a peak in martial arts, reaching a higher realm just based on a trace of fist intent. The hidden monk's fist intent was many times more brilliant than Su Hui's. It was like a firefly in a bright moon, a river, and a vast ocean. It was enough to prove the hidden monk's power. At this moment, Yongxin and the other martial monks also rushed to the mountain gate. Their faces changed in unison when they saw this scene. Especially those martial monks who had practiced the Arhat fist were filled with shock. The Arhat fist was Shaolin's introductory fist technique. Every monk in the Shaolin temple had to practice it. Even Yongxin had practiced it for a few years. The reason was simple. The Arhat fist was not a very profound fist technique, but it could help the monks build a solid foundation and strengthen their bodies. From there, they could switch to other martial arts. However, the Arhat fist, which was practiced to build a foundation, actually exploded with such power under the hidden monk's hands. These martial monks suddenly had the same thought. Could the Arhat fist even be used like that? They felt that all these years of martial arts training had been in vain. Lin Chi smirked. Shaolin was indeed Shaolin. The hidden monk indeed had some ability. He was able to produce such profound fist intent. However, that was far from enough. The hidden monk had only grasped the skill of fist intent. But Lin Chi had grasped the domain. The so-called domain was a world. Lin Chi was the ruler in that world. He could control everything. Not to mention the fist intent, Lin Chi would be able to kill an Arhat even existed in the world as long as he was within the range of Lin Chi's domain. It was the domain in the martial arts path. In Buddhism, it was the Buddhist kingdom. In Taoism, it was the unity of heaven and humans. There were different versions, but they all had the same meaning. Although the hidden monk was extraordinary, he was still too far away from mastering the domain. He would be an earth immortal if he mastered the domain. Lin Chi made his move. He didn't use the power of heaven and earth. An earth immortal could control the power of heaven and earth. It meant that he could control the power of heaven and earth to a certain extent. He cultivated the scripture of the thunder monarch. He was good at controlling lightning and thunder. If he controlled a bolt of lightning and fell from the sky. Not to mention the hidden monk. Even the Shaolin temple would shatter. So he also threw a punch. There was nothing fancy about it. The others also didn't see anything special in this punch. It was as if he just gave an ordinary punch. Boom. The two continued to battle. A deafening sound was heard. The old and skinny hidden monk was extremely fast. He changed all kinds of fist techniques and attacked Lin Chi from different angles. But Lin Chi did not move from beginning to end no matter how the hidden monk attacked. He did not even move a step. Lin Chi just let out an ordinary punch facing the storm-like attacks. It was a very dull punch, just like a young man who had just learned martial arts. He only knew that one punch. But that one punch was enough to block the attack of the hidden monk. One punch was enough to deal with all kinds of attacks. The violent airwaves spread out in all directions, with the two of them as the center. These tourists would have been directly injured by the spreading airwaves if it weren't that Lin Chi had controlled his strength intentionally. Bang! 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 The air exploded and was deafening. The ground outside the mountain gate was directly shattered by the two's aura, creating crisscrossing gullies. The tourists of Shaolin Temple widened their eyes and watched the battle between the two in shock. Oh my God, what did I see? A fight between immortals. I'm impressed. I'm just here to burn incense, and I met immortals. It's Buddha battling an immortal. It's too scary. Are these two immortals? There are no immortals in this world. These two are both warriors, and I'm afraid they are the most powerful warriors in the Dragon Country. The crowd discussed in disbelief. There were naturally some warriors who recognized the hidden monk and Lin Chi among the crowd. They were not immortals, but warriors. However, although warriors were powerful, they never thought that they could be so powerful. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were immortals. Chapter 30. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Hidden Monk passed away instantly. Translator. Nyo.bo Studio Editor. Nyo.bo Studio, hiss. Some martial arts league warriors hiding in the dark gasped. They looked in shock at Lin Chi and the hidden monk outside the mountain gate. They had been notified by their superiors to pay a visit to Shaolin Temple to investigate the fight between Lin Chi and the hidden monk. However, the fight between the two had exceeded the imagination of these martial arts league warriors. How was that still a fight between warriors? That was simply a fight between immortals. They transmitted the battle scene in front of them to the headquarters as they gulped. Meanwhile, the tourists at the side had already recovered from their shock. They took out their phones to take photos or videos one after another. They wanted to record everything in front of them. I suddenly feel that I'm good. For nothing, watching them fight. Not only you. I also feel that I'm good. For nothing. Everyone is a good. For nothing. This is martial arts. What we practice is gymnastics. I didn't expect that a warrior could be so powerful to such an extent. It's so terrifying. Boom. A wave of air exploded. The hidden monk was in a bad state. There was blood at the corner of his mouth, and his face was pale. After receiving a punch, the hidden monk's figure retreated rapidly. The two of them pulled apart a distance of at least 5 meters. Then, the hidden monk directly sat cross-legged. His condition was not as good as before. His aura was chaotic, and even traces of cracks appeared on his body. Lin Chi, on the other hand. His expression was relaxed as he floated in mid-air. He stood with his hands behind his back and calmly looked at the hidden monk. The hidden monk raised his head and suddenly let out a cry. He spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale, and his aura was weak. Sure. Shoo. Yongxin was greatly shocked and wanted to rush forward. It's fine. The hidden monk waved his hand. Yongxin and the other monks stopped at their original place and looked at the hidden monk anxiously. In everyone's eyes, the outcome was obvious. The hidden monk put his palms together and closed his eyes to arrange his breath. It was obvious that he was seriously injured. But even so, when the tourists looked at the hidden monk, they could feel a peaceful and calm aura emanating from him. Everyone's heart became extremely peaceful under that aura. They felt regret and disgust towards the secular past. There were even some who wanted to kneel and escape into the void. In everyone's eyes, the hidden monk was a Buddha. That was because the hidden monk was injured by Lin Chi. He could not control his state. Although he was not a Buddha, his fist technique had already grasped the fist intent. The fist intent naturally could not be controlled and was born when his aura was in disorder. Those who felt this fist intent and had a weak will would even convert into Buddhism. In ancient times, some demonic monks used that to bewitch the people and increase their followers so that they could worship themselves. Of course, the real eminent monks would not do this. What was the difference between bewitching the people with such a method and a heathendom? All monks became monks for various reasons when the Buddha crossed the fated people. They would not force the people to believe in the Buddha or escape into the void. Otherwise, they would have been hunted down by the authorities or martial arts league. Now, it was just that the hidden monk could not control his power after being injured. The hidden monk opened his eyes a moment later. He retracted his scattered aura and pressed his palms together. Amitabha. Almsgiver, your methods are truly heaven-like. I was the one who lost my composure just now. I didn't expect that I would finally meet an earth immortal today after wasting more than 100 years. As the saying goes, one can die after learning the Tao in the morning. To be able to meet you before passing away is not a life in vain, almsgiver. Thank you for letting me see the path to God. It's a pity that I don't have much time left. However, life and death are determined by fate. It's just a body. I'm already satisfied. I will pray for you in the Sukhavati and let martial arts flourish after I pass away. More people will be able to open the path to God. The hidden monk had a face full of emotion. The others were shocked. It turned out that not only was the hidden monk injured by Lin Chi, but he was also about to die. The faces of the abbot, Yongxin, and the group of martial monks immediately changed. The hidden monk was the Shaolin Temple's greatest reliance. The Shaolin Temple would decline in the future if he passed away. They originally thought that Lin Chi and the hidden monk would only go so far. They did not expect that Lin Chi would attack so heavily. Not only did he injure the hidden monk, but making him pass away. They would have closed the mountain gate and ignored Lin Chi if they had known earlier. The death of the hidden monk was a great loss to the Shaolin Temple. Yongxin's heart was bleeding. However, Lin Chi, who was floating in the air, could not help but smile. That old monk's acting was not bad. He knew that the old monk had successfully fooled these people by looking at the reactions of the people around him. All of that was fake. The dying soon and going to the Sukhavati were all bullshit. Although the old monk was injured, it was not very serious. He was not dying soon at all. When Lin Chi was fighting with the hidden monk just now, he told the monk the purpose of his trip with his spiritual telepathy. The hidden monk would never agree if it were before. After all, although the hidden monk was away from the world, he was still a member of Shaolin. If he had to pretend that he was about to pass away after being defeated by Lin Chi, it would cause the Shaolin Temple's reputation to plummet. But, the hidden monk had directly agreed, and his acting skills were beyond the standard. He saw the hope of reaching the Earth Immortal Realm with guidance from Lin Chi. He understood a little bit of what it meant to be able to reverse life and death and control heaven and earth. That was why he agreed. After all, becoming an Earth Immortal was the goal of the hidden monk. Why would the hidden monk not agree now that it was right in front of him? Furthermore, it was great. Yongxin, I acted of my free will on the battle with this almsgiver. The entire temple cannot make things difficult for this almsgiver. You must fulfill the request of this almsgiver if he had any. Yes, sure. Shu. The abbot, Yongxin helplessly exchanged glances with the other monks. He did not understand what the hidden monk was saying at all. Lin Chi was so vicious. It was fine if he just injured the hidden monk. The hidden monk even wanted them to fulfill Lin Chi's requests. They could not agree to that. But they could not say it out loud, so they could only agree. The hidden monk closed his eyes after saying that. To others, he was in such a state because his injuries were too severe. In fact, the monk was so happy that his heart was bursting with joy. He was trying to comprehend that hint of enlightenment in his heart. That hint of enlightenment was like a flash of light in the night. Although it was only for a moment, it allowed the monk to see the road to becoming an Earth Immortal. It was indeed unlikely for an Earth Immortal to appear in this world. The spiritual energy was extremely scarce. Countless talented warriors were unable to take this step for hundreds of years. However, Lin Chi's appearance allowed him to see the possibility. However, becoming an Earth Immortal was not something that happened overnight. It required a lot of time, and there had to be opportunities. It did not mean that he could immediately step into this realm just because he saw it. But even so, it was enough to make the hidden monk extremely excited, and he was even more grateful to Lin Chi.